Maybe we're not here to tiptoe through life, attempting not to disturb anything. Welcome to Mediumship Sparks, where we connect more deeply with spirit and source and follow the sparks of insight and inspiration that bring us greater awareness, healing, and just more flow into our lives. I'm Noelle Dean, intuitive medium, licensed therapist, and your host. A quick note before we begin: this podcast is for educational purposes only and provides general information. It is not medical or psychological advice and is not a substitute for care from a licensed health professional. I'm so grateful we get to step into this together. Let's dig in. Hello. Today's episode is brought to you by your friendly neighborhood spiritual team with a supportive and helpful episode for the idea of how we look at carrying ourselves as a spiritual being, like the expectations that come along with that, and this concept of leaving your spiritual footprints wherever you go. Let's start with expectations that you might have when you consider or call yourself a spiritual being. Ideas of being like mildly or modestly angelic. Like you're not going to stir anything up. You're just going to try to be good, kind, generous, heartfelt in the things that you do, and causing no harm, certainly not destruction of anything. My grandmother says phooey. Yay for grandma keeping it clean today. What came as I was sitting with this was the idea of thinking we should be, quote, all light and love, or whatever that concept is. I'm sure that I have had those thoughts or felt bad that I'm not more that way. You may have had that too. Also, what feels connected with that kind of expectation is the idea of carrying ourselves so gently and lightly that we don't disturb anything. What my team brought in when we were preparing is it would be great if we all had the intention of do no harm. Of course, I want to do no harm. What that calls from me as a person and as a spiritual being, and for you as a spiritual being, is awareness. There are times when we're conscious and unaware, and we do shit. And if the expectation is to be this somewhat angelic being, you could, if you let yourself, sit up at night wondering, oh crap, what did I do today that may have caused harm? If you're trying to hold yourself to that nth degree of integrity with that idea or ideal. Conflict and tension and resistance are precipitators of movement. If we think back, just in concept, you may have done hypnosis sessions or meditations where you're very aware of what you came to this life to learn or to experience. So you may have a lot of awareness about that. But even as I'm saying that, I'm like, but I can't imagine it was to tiptoe around people and things so that you don't create a reason for change in other people. And the desire to be careful to that degree could have you be ineffectual. I look for guidance to do that because I don't pretend that I know more than I do. Asking for guidance and being as conscious as I can in the moment, and also, even bigger, accepting that I'm limited in that. I can be as aware and deliberate as I can think to be in a moment. If you feel like you trespassed upon somebody and you should be as angelic as possible, that would be a great provoker of shame. Shame doesn't help anything unless we learn from it and then we let it go. Think back to others that have hurt you or done things that were hurtful to you, that have made you very uncomfortable, that have caused a certain amount of self-reflection, that has you really look at your own behavior and make some real changes. in retrospect, when you think back to this person or event that happened, and you look at the growth and the learning that's come from it, depending on what it is, of course, it might be hard to regret that thing because it helped catapult you into making some big changes. I'm recording this on Cinco de Mayo, 2026, and it is the 11-year anniversary of receiving a breast cancer diagnosis. Having breast cancer was a life changer, a life disruptor for sure, and going through treatment, surgeries. But when you fast forward, say an 11-year retrospect can help have a real appreciation for having that life disruptor. Because had I not had that experience with cancer, I would likely not be doing this or any of the deeper spiritual work I've been able to do over the last decade, because I would be in the life I had, which was working full time, doing something related to therapy or auditing, just things that weren't an expression of my true self anymore, but because it was a consistent income and I felt like I worked hard to earn my degree and license and seniority. I wouldn't have given that up. A great excuse for an ego attachment, because it made me feel like I did something, I accomplished something. I'm grateful, even though it was hard at the time, to have had that experience with cancer to give me an appreciation for lots of other things and an education in things I never would have learned about otherwise. Let's shift gears to relationships that are difficult or conflictual. My first thought goes to family, because that's where a lot of us have some of those kind of relationships, but it could be neighbors, coworkers. Let's say relationships that you don't freely choose, but are a natural part of your life. We can feel negatively impacted by the behaviors within these kinds of relationships that we can be unhappy about. And not that we should feel forced to see the rainbow that comes out of every piece of tension in our lives, because that's not a realistic way to live. Also to accept that we are sometimes the thing stuck in somebody's craw, just like others are for us. Maybe there's a pre-life agreement to represent something in the other person's life that causes them growth or gives them an opportunity to look at themselves and make some positive changes. If our goal in even coming to this life, to this incarnation, was to have certain experiences and to learn certain lessons, the price of that would be having hard experiences. And then you just do your best in that. When they were bringing in the idea of tension or resistance or conflict, the visual that I got was the Grand Canyon. Thousands of years, water carved out this magnificent piece of art. Sometimes when we hear somebody say these kinds of words, we can feel a bit outraged. What the hell are you talking about? I had this happen and these were terrible. I almost died, or my close loved person actually did. It's helpful to look at the course of your life and see the conflicts that came up and how you moved past them and traversed through them. But maybe how you came out of that experience and how you are now, you feel really good about. Maybe you feel really proud of the changes that you made, or the different way you learned how to handle conflict or fear. So trying to be really careful. What we think is or should be the expectation of being this spiritual being isn't about being perfectly grounded or perfectly kind or perfectly gentle with everyone. Maybe it means sometimes just being an asshole and making an amends for that and helping somebody else who had that experience of us feel restored when we apologize, and for us to take another step in the path of humility and accepting that, yeah, I can be an asshole too sometimes. And you know what? Next time I can say that about somebody else, I might not actually say it in my head or out of my mouth, because then I have to say, oh, yeah, I am that too. It's just being human. It might be good to reflect on, what do we really want to leave as our spiritual footprints on the people that we've impacted in this life? Maybe it's being a living demonstration of being able to change and being authentic and honest about who we've been when we've not been so great. I kind of love that. You came to leave a unique contribution on people, on the earth, maybe, on your industry of choice, the company that you worked at, the neighborhood that you live in, and making things a little better. Fostering or adopting dogs, maybe, if there's still some fear that you're harboring about the impact you make on people. Maybe it's just a good reality check from a spiritual team that wants to be more outspoken, that you want to leave spiritual footprints, and then being mindful as you can about the ones you're leaving, cleaning up any mess you leave as you become aware of it, as your awareness increases, and doing your best in a self-empowered way to just lead the best kind of life you can, and the most empowered way to own yourself. I came here for this experience. I did this and this. I had to make up for that and that. And who I became at the end, I was good with. And that sounds like a life worth living, a forged identity that you became the person you set out to be when you planned on coming here. So maybe you showed up as a lump of ore. And with all of these experiences, you're honing yourself into this beautiful piece of metal that you're proud of having become. Not in an egoic way, in a I earned every moment, I earned every piece. I walked through it, I dealt with it, I looked back, I sat with it, I reflected, I made some changes, and I moved on. That feels right. Respecting the process and how much we're willing to break ourselves up into pieces and put back a slightly better version, more conscious, greater awareness, and who we would feel proud of ourselves at our core that we've become. And feel good about your footprints. You came here to do something, maybe a whole bunch of things. A reminder for all of us, including myself, of course, that our team is here for it, our spiritual team. They came to support us as they were supported, some of them who are disincarnated beings. They walked through some harsh lessons and hopefully grew from it in the way they hoped that they would before they came. I want to encourage us to be that too. However much time we have left, that we really carry ourselves as the person we hoped we would become. Yeah. I love that for all of us. Living your life on purpose and with purpose. No expectation of being angelic or perfect, but being the most, there's the raw, genuine you underneath habits and thoughts and ideas and ruts, lifestyles, identities, and really working to get down to the innermost core and living from that. Like your truest soul's self-expression, bringing that out into the world and sharing that more and more with yourself and those around you. That's the part of us that doesn't have self-doubt. That's the part of us who knows something. They know what they know. And when you're feeling unsure of who or what that is, sitting quietly with ourselves to really get back in touch with that. Maybe through a visual or a dream, however you receive your messages, maybe doing some inspired writing and asking questions and just writing and writing until you're unconsciously writing and seeing what comes through, because you invite your team to come in close and help you understand better what is the thing that maybe you're missing or you're not quite understanding, or what are you not yet even seeing as a possibility that would be inspiring and helpful. It's just not living on automatic pilot. We all know people who do, and if that's satisfying and fulfilling for them, then awesome. But I think if you're listening to this podcast, that's not really you. I'm grateful for the awakening moments of, oh yeah, there's so much that's so much deeper than what I'm even paying attention to. And I want to dive into that. I want to really feel when I leave the planet that I really lived. And I don't mean I went skiing in Aspen or climbed the Alps, not like that. But that who I became was somebody worth trusting, and that I kicked my own ass to become a bigger, badass version of who I never thought I'd have the guts to become, and feel proud of that experience, to feel satisfied with that. I hope that for you. It's not an easy journey, but it'll be worth it. And if there's anything I can do to support you, please reach out. If there's anything about this that you would like to share, I would love to hear from you and hear how maybe this kind of journey is going for you. And if you have any questions or subjects that you would like my team and I to address on the podcast, send us an email. You take care of yourself. And we'll talk again soon. Thanks for spending this time with me on Mediumship Sparks. If this episode resonated with you, please like it, subscribe, rate, and certainly share it with somebody else who could benefit. If you're interested in any support I might be able to provide as you navigate your spiritual path, please check out my offerings at connectingwithnoelle.com and reach out at mediumshipsparkspodcast@gmail.com. Take good care of yourself, and I'll look forward to being with you again.